Right, hello everyone. This is the ITNW-1425 CompTIA Network Plus Chapter 1 guided lecture. These slides are always available via Blackboard, and also if you have access to Google Drive, it'll be under the folder that says shared with me so that you can see those items as well. But the best, most reliable spot to get it from is from Blackboard. So a lot of people like to open the slides or have them printed out so they can keep notes while they're going through the lecture. But since this is a recorded video, you can always go back and kind of rewatch certain things and jot down any questions, comments, or concerns you may have. So without any further ado, we'll get to Chapter 1, which is kind of an introductory chapter called CompTIA Network Plus in a nutshell. So for those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with CompTIA, we'll cover that. We'll cover the certification itself, a little bit of what you can expect. So even though this is a college course, the overall goal is to get you trained for the CompTIA Network Plus exam, which is a highly regarded certification within the IT industry. So our major objectives, of course, we'll go over the importance of the CompTIA Network Plus certification, the structure and contents of the Network Plus certification exam, and then planning a strategy because, you know, the cliche that kind of comes to mind when you're talking about studying for a certification, whether it's for networking or hardware, doctor, lawyer, whatever it may be, is plan your work and work your plan. You know, if you plan, I'm going to do an hour a day for 30 days and then I'm going to take the test, work your plan just like that, and you'll find out that you'll be much more successful. So who needs CompTIA Network Plus? I just want to learn about networks. And while that is the overall goal of this course as a fundamentals course, why not get the certification simultaneously if you can? We're going to cover chapter to chapter, front cover to back cover. So while we're learning these topics, and hopefully by the end of it you have a firm understanding of what's contained within the Network Plus objectives, why not take the certification exam? So what is it? What is the Network Plus certification? It's an industry-wide vendor-neutral certification. So that vendor-neutral term is somewhat loose in that CompTIA in all their exams, whether it's A+, whether it's Network Plus, Security Plus, Project, whatever it may be, they tend to focus primarily on the Windows operating system, which is, you know, by anybody knows by now that Windows is extremely popular. Now, it's not the dominant force it once was. You know, Apple has taken a chunk of that. The tablet market has taken a chunk of that, smartphones, and then Linux and other open source operating systems are popular on a global scale as well. So it's developed by the Computer Technology Industry Association, CompTIA, that's how you pronounce it. Passing shows a basic competency in the physical support of networking systems. So we're going to discuss, even though it says physical support, we're going to talk about both the physical support and the logical support of networks, because the physical stuff is what we can see. We'll go over routers, we'll go over switches, we'll go over cablings, we'll go over wireless access points, all those sorts of things. But the logical side is, how do you actually program those? You know, for the most part, pretty much anybody could plug in a router. Anybody could plug in a switch. The next step is actually configuring those items. And while we won't necessarily go too in detail on routers and switches and those sorts of deals, we will talk about the basics of getting them connected and some of the things you can do with them. Later certifications will go over into actually how you configure a router or how you configure a switch, those sorts of things. Passing shows a knowledge of conceptual aspects of networking. Once again, this isn't as hands-on as many of you would probably like it to be. While we will spend a lot of time doing labs in the class, by no means do you think you'll walk out of here being a router expert or a firewall expert. We'll go over those things as part of the course, but we're not going to go knee-deep into any one thing because this is a fundamentals course. We need to make sure we understand the fundamentals before we actually get our hands dirty, so to speak. Demonstrates knowledge equivalent to a network technician with 9 months of networking experience. So if you are able to get the certification, you can almost guarantee that it counts for about 9 months of networking experience. So for those of you who are just trying to break into the industry, this would be a good certification to get. It is considered somewhat of an entry-level certification, but 9 months experience, you know, if you guys start looking for jobs out there in the industry, you'll see a lot of them that say a year plus certification or an associate's degree or those sorts of things. So this would actually kill, you know, two birds with one stone. It would show that you have about 9 months experience, and then you're also certified. And most of you are taking this as part of your curriculum. So there's the third requirement of having your degree, or at least be working towards a degree. Requires one computer-based multiple choice exam. And even though it's cut off here up at the slide, the exam number is N10-005. And you want to make sure that you're studying, because I'm sure some of you guys will pursue outside, you know, study materials, whether that's YouTube videos, whether that's online websites. Make sure the items that you guys are reading cover N10-005, because there are older versions of the exam, and you don't want to purchase a book or purchase any practice test material that covers that, because those objectives are way different than the objectives in the latest version of the exam. Widely recognized throughout the IT industry. You say Network Plus, people know what you're talking about. What is CompTIA, or better yet, who is CompTIA? A non-profit industry trade association. Members include computers resellers, value-added distributors, kind of those deals. Basically, anybody and everybody in the IT industry is a part, or at least a contributing member to CompTIA. Dell, Microsoft, Sun, who else? Compaq, HP, you name a company in IT, and they probably are part of CompTIA in some way, shape, or form. Founded in 1982, once again, this stuff is kind of historical purposes. You won't see a test question saying, when was CompTIA founded? Kind of just introducing you to the certification. Offer certifications for a variety of industries. Some of them I've mentioned already: A+, Network Plus, INET Plus, Internet Plus, Security Plus, Project, Mobile. I believe they have a Health IT certification. One of the labs you guys will actually be doing is going on the website and looking through those certifications. So we won't be going into detail of what those ones cover, because it's one of your assignments for this class. CompTIA was revised in 2011, so that's why you want to make sure you're studying for the latest version of the exam, is what this book covers. And Mike Myers does a very good job. He's an extremely popular trainer in A+, Network Plus. I think he does Security Plus as well, but he's got a lot of YouTube videos, lots of books out there. He's one of the highly regarded guys for training on this material, besides yours truly, of course. How do I become CompTIA Network Plus certified? Pass one computer-based multiple choice exam. No prerequisites, or networking experience. You can study the material, walk in, take the test, become certified, and now you are Network Plus certified. You don't have to attend any special training course or have some materials or anything along those lines. Pay your fee, take the test, you pass it, great. If not, you can retake it at a later date and time. Now, CompTIA recommends that you have at least 9 months of network tech experience, because even though there are those individuals who can read this book, never touch a router or switch before, go in and take that test and pass it, a lot of this stuff will make a lot more sense when you've actually been working with it. And it also recommends the CompTIA A+ certification knowledge. A+, which is another course, covers PC hardware and software. So along those same lines, if you don't understand the basics of what a computer is, what a mouse is, what a keyboard is, what those things are, networking is going to be a little bit of a challenge for you guys. But we'll hopefully bridge the gap throughout this course. As far as the tech experience, that's kind of why our course is structured the way it's structured. A lot of these lectures, we're going to record them for every chapter so that you guys can go back and watch them. And the actual class time is going to be spent working on the labs. So we will have a lot of hands-on activity that kind of attempts to bridge the gap for that hands-on experience that you can't necessarily get from the book. So we'll have separate labs. There'll be labs for every chapter to kind of help us get that experience, that hands-on, because you'll see it yourself as individuals and as in groups, like, oh, this is a router, after we've done a lab on a router, or this is a switch, and this is how it works. So that's what we're going to attempt to do with the labs. What's the test like? That's the #1 question people ask when they're about to take the test. What can I expect? So we covered a couple things. 100 multiple choice questions, 90-minute time limit. You need to have a minimum pass score of 720 on a scale of 100 to 900. Essentially, every question is worth about 10 points. Now, you may be doing some quick math in your head and say, okay, well, there's 100 questions, 10 points, how is the maximum score 900? About 10 questions are considered, I don't want to say test questions, trial questions. They're using them, kind of evaluating them for later tests. So you won't know which one those are, so you have to take every question as if it counts towards the test. But as far as how they come up with the score, it's about 10 points per question, times that by 90 questions, there's your 900 score. Those last 10 questions, they use them for evaluation purposes for later iterations of the test. The objectives are going to be organized into CompTIA Network Plus domains. So here's kind of a breakdown of the 5 major domains covered by Network Plus. And as far as what you can expect on the test itself, you can see it's almost an even split, anywhere from 17 to 23%. That's not a big gap. So don't sit there and read, well, I just won't worry about network median topologies. That is a big portion, because everything kind of builds on top of each other within Network Plus and within networking in general. If you don't understand cabling and the physical layout of your network, which is what that network median topologies domain covers, there's no way you're going to be able to understand network installation and configuration. If you don't understand it on paper, you're not going to understand it in the real world. So long story short, treat every topic extremely important. What you want to do is, with each one of these, look at them and say, okay, I'm weak in network security, but I'm strong in the other 4. So let me just kind of brush up on those things, but let me really hit the network security portions hard, just so you can kind of gauge where everything's at. More about the exam. Now, I did mention 100 multiple choice questions. There are some practical questions. You'll see them referred to as the simulation questions. Real life troubleshooting scenarios. Hardware and software failures. What do you do next? What is the most likely problem? Some very common questions, and don't just sit there and say, oh, well, I'll just study that type of question, because they change from time to time. But some common questions you'll see is a command prompt, which is something we'll cover in the labs. You'll have to run a series of commands, and the simulation question essentially records the steps you take, ultimately to arrive at the, whatever it is, resolving the issue, more than likely the troubleshooting scenario. Other questions are, you'll be given kind of a blank classroom with wireless access points and directional antennas, and you'll have to drag and drop the wireless access points to provide 100% coverage. Some other ones I've seen on there, drag and drop with the OSI model, which is what we cover, I believe, in the next chapter, where you'll have to match up a particular device with the layer in the OSI model that it matches up to. So different things. So don't just think, I'll just do multiple choice. I can do that. I've got a 1 in 4 chance. The simulation questions tend to trick people up. But there's only about 3 to 4 of them on any particular iteration of the test. So a lot of people, and I've taught this course numerous times, a lot of people will say, well, I didn't know the simulation questions, that's why I failed. No, because the majority of the test is the multiple choice portion. So you failed equally on both parts. I've had people say, we didn't do enough hands-on, that's why I failed the test, I didn't know the simulation. Well, that's only 3 questions on the entire exam, so don't downplay the importance of the simulation. That's why we do the labs, to kind of get your mind into thinking, okay, this is how this stuff actually works. We'll do a little bit of troubleshooting as well, just to kind of get your headspace into thinking, okay, this is how I break down an issue and ultimately arrive at the appropriate solution. Know how to install and configure a PC to connect to a network using these skills and knowledge. Install and test a network card, configure drivers, load the software, know the different topologies, know the OSI 7-layer model. If I can't, you guys can't see me foot stomp on this, but if I could foot stomp on that, make sure we know that model, and I believe that's chapter 2 that will go over that. Know the protocol suites, especially TCP/IP. If you were looking at those 6 bullet points and saying, huh? Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get to those topics and discuss them. Not as much in detail because a lot of these things are hardware related. We'll talk about them strictly from the networking side of things. So we won't necessarily go into troubleshooting computer issues. We would troubleshoot network issues on a computer. So, how do you take the test? Go to an authorized testing center. Unfortunately, the campus in Greenville, also those in Paris and Sulphur Springs, to my understanding, as of the date of this lecture, we are not a certified testing center. But if you go to either one of those websites, either Prometric or Pearson VUE, plug in your zip code, it'll give you the 20 closest testing centers, and that's where you actually have to take the exam. And it's nothing special. It's just a room where they have a dedicated proctor. They have a webcam to kind of, actually have a webcam at each testing station to watch to make sure you're not doing, cheating on your smartwatch or anything along those lines. So Prometric at prometric.com or Pearson VUE at vue.com, and VUE is V-U-E, not view as you normally spell it. How much does the test cost? Price is set by CompTIA at publication time, pretty much at the writing of this book and also at the date of this lecture. It's about $246 for non-CompTIA members. And don't look at it and say, well, I'll just become a CompTIA member and get a discount. You can't be a CompTIA member without passing a certification and then paying your annual dues. So just plan on $246. But you can save money by purchasing a voucher through CompTIA companies. The book sometimes has a coupon. If you do a quick Google search, you'll find some discount coupons. The publisher companies usually have about 10% off, which, on $250, that ends up being a good chunk of change. So please, if you guys go to schedule the exam, contact me first or do your research online to see if you can find a coupon code, because $20 is $20, When registering, you have to have your social security number, pay by credit card number, or the unique voucher number. You use the voucher number if you use those coupon codes. You go to a separate website, purchase a voucher, they send you an email with the code, you copy and paste that in, and that's the same thing. We're not in international waters, so we won't worry about international prices. How to pass it. Keep it simple. The acronym of KISS applies. Keep it simple, stupid. You want to keep it very, very simple. Read the book. I cannot stress that enough. Read the book. You have to treat everything, with the exception of this first chapter. Everything in that book is subject to be on the test. So I don't want people to sit there and say, oh, well, I'll just ignore chapter 5, because sure enough, you'll see 10 questions about that if you do take the certification exam. Practice the questions at the end of chapters. They're in there. They're only about 10 questions, multiple choice. Do those. Everything in the book is designed to help you pass this test. Complete the lab exercises. Can't stress it enough, especially if you're one who's never worked with networking equipment. You want to do the labs, because the labs are the fun part, right? It's not just me talking. It's not just you reading. We're actually playing around with equipment. So do the labs. The test in the back of the book, or I'm sorry, the CD in the back of the book, if you guys bought a new version, has practice tests as well. And then review any topics you miss. Me personally, I tend to practice the rule of 7 when it comes to these things. I try to view a particular piece of material 7 times before I feel truly comfortable with it. So let's just take chapter 2, for example. I would read it the first time. Just straight up read it from the first page of the chapter to the last page of the chapter. I would come back and watch the lecture. Watch this lecture that I'll do for chapter 2. Go back, reread the chapter. So now I've seen things 3 times. I'm going to take handwritten notes on the chapter itself. I'm going to write down definitions. I'm going to write down things I struggle with. I then take those notes and type them up in Word, in Google Drive, whatever it may be. So the actual writing it down, that's kind of that mind-muscle memory, writing it down and then typing it. I've now seen it 5 times. Go back, take a practice test. You guys will have a quiz at the end of every chapter. So that's 6 times I've seen the material. And then right before I go and take the exam, I study my typed up notes, because my typed up notes are going to be the key topics from the chapter. It's not going to include all the fluff, all the extra examples. It's going to be, this is this, this is this, this is this. So now I've seen it 7 times. That was 7, right? I've seen it 7 times before I actually take the exam. And it's not science, it's not proven fact. For me, that's worked in the past. So that's just what I practice when it comes to these tests. But as long as you guys study, whatever method works for you, you should be prepared, as long as you commit the time and effort to it. But I can't stress the book and the labs enough. If you don't read, if you don't do the hands-on stuff, you won't pass the test. Obligate yourself. Schedule the exam. There's nothing more powerful than pressure. There's nothing more powerful than saying, I've paid $246, scheduled it for December 21st. I'm going to take this test. That's tends to work for people. We're creatures of habit. If you shell out money for something, you're going to take the time to go out and do it. If you've shelled out money, you're going to take the time to study. Determine your necessary study time, register for the exam online, and set aside the right amount of study time. Now, this is kind of included in here for general purposes. If you're looking at this and saying, I have no idea how I'm dedicating my time to studying this, maybe you've never taken a certification, maybe you've never studied before. Some of you guys are like that. You can sit down, read the chapter the night before, go out and ace the exam. But this is just included in here for recommendation purposes. On the left-hand side are the major topics, and then on the right-hand side, basically amount of experience study time in hours. So you can see that if you have no experience, obviously you're going to have more studying on each particular topic. If you have once or twice, maybe you've taken a networking course before, or you've read this book before, you can see it goes down from there. On occasion, if you've done it a lot, you can see pretty much an hour per topic, and you should be good to go. Once again, this is recommendation. This isn't any clear-cut science. It's not the rule of 7 or anything like that. So just included in here, this is table 1.1 in your book. So as far as the studying for the test, historical, conceptual material, not on the test, but greatly aids in understanding. You guys will hear me throughout these lectures. I'll compare things to a movie. I'll compare things. Oh, this is like in Terminator when they're doing this, and this is like in The Matrix when they're doing that. That's included just to kind of bridge the gap, so you can, you'll be surprised what you remember come test time. Oh yeah, that's when Dan said it was like The Matrix. That's what this is. So we'll include that, but don't think that they're going to say a router is like what, Neo took the blue pill from Morpheus. It's not going to be anything like that. The test-specific material topics fit within the CompTIA Network Plus certification domains. Everything on the test, trust me when I say this, they will say, this fits under domain 1, this fits under domain 3, this fits under domain 2. They will find a way to say this is exactly in the test, and more than likely, you'll be able to go back to the book and say, yep, there it is on page 27, right there, clear as day. So everything in the book and everything in the labs is designed to get you guys to this point. So, fairly short lecture, just an introductory on the certification exam itself. Once again, the disclaimer note, this won't be included on any sort of certification test. There will be a quiz on this chapter. Everything is on Blackboard. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about this lecture, bring them up during the next class meeting, and we will discuss them. But I will talk to you guys soon. See you.